Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In John chapter 10, once again, we see the topic of faith being brought forth. In verse 24, the Jews that were gathered around him said, "If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." Just straight up tell us if you are the Christ, the Messiah. And Jesus responds and says, "I told you, and you do not believe." And he had told them, granted, he didn't just flat out say, "Hey guys, I'm the Messiah," but he did, in essence, tell them already that he was the Messiah. He goes on here to talk about the works that he did in his Father's name, and he had spoken about that before. He had described himself as the Son of Man. He talked about the fact that he proceeded forth from the Father, that he and the Father are one. Moses had testified of him. He had given a lot of descriptions and a lot of ways in which he said, in essence, "I am the Messiah, I am the Christ," but they didn't want to believe. It'd be kind of like if I were to tell someone that I eat meat on a regular basis, 3 to 4 times a week. I eat meat, and that's just a part of my diet. Then for them to say, "Well, are you a carnivore?" I would have to say, "Yes, I said I'm a carnivore. I eat meat 3 or 4 times a week." To eat meat 3 or 4 times a week is to say that I'm a carnivore. The same thing is true with what Jesus said. The things that he said about himself meant that he is the Messiah, and he had told them that. And Jesus recognized the fact that even if he just flat out told them, even if he told them in the most plain and simplest language, they still would not receive it because they didn't have a heart of belief. Matter of fact, he says, "I told you and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, these testify of me, but you do not believe because you are not of my sheep. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give eternal life to them." And he goes on. And so here he says, those who are my sheep are those who believe, who have faith. And that's the difference between his sheep and those who are not his sheep. Those who believe, and those who believe in him are his sheep. They hear his voice, they know his voice, they follow his voice. And again, they are his sheep. These individuals did not want to believe. And it wouldn't matter how Jesus presented who he was to them, they just weren't going to believe. And Jesus was real good at recognizing that. Oftentimes we're not so good at that, because out of a good heart we do want everyone to come to faith in Jesus Christ. We tend to have a hard time just accepting the fact that there are some people who just aren't going to believe. Jesus didn't stay up at night wringing his hands and worrying about those who weren't going to believe and those who didn't believe. Jesus recognized the fact that there's just going to be some people who believe and there's just going to be some people who don't believe. He didn't try to change the truth about himself to get more people to believe. He didn't put on a performance and put on a show to bring more people to himself. He just simply told the truth. He did the works of his Father, and that was enough to testify about who he was. If they accepted it, then okay, that proves that they're my sheep. If they don't believe, well, then they're not my sheep. Very straightforward with Jesus. And oftentimes we miss that. And oftentimes we think, well, if someone doesn't believe, if we shared the gospel with them and they don't believe, then there must be something wrong with us. Maybe we didn't share the gospel in the right way. Maybe we didn't bring up the right evidences for Christ. Maybe we came about it in the wrong angle, and we can stay up all night replaying the conversations in our head, wondering what we did wrong that they didn't believe. But at the end of the day, we got to realize that sometimes people just don't believe because they just don't have a believing heart. They just don't have the heart to believe. And when it comes to us, we can't beat ourselves up because of that. Now there's nothing wrong with us, looking over a conversation that we had and trying to better our presentation of the gospel, maybe seeing ways that we could have tweaked it to make it more receivable by them. But at the end of the day, again, in some cases, it doesn't matter how you present it. It doesn't matter what you do. They're just not going to believe. They're just not in that state of mind yet. And they don't have the heart for that yet. And so what do we do in those particular cases? Well, you don't necessarily want to just give up on them and say, well, I shared the gospel with this person 20 years ago and they didn't want to accept it. So, I wipe my hands of the situation. We want to continue to plant seeds, continue to have our eyes open to doors of opportunity to sharing more about Christ to the person, but not to kick ourselves and look down on ourselves because another person doesn't believe. Again, we just don't know the condition of a person's heart until we share the gospel, and that condition will become evident a lot of times in their response to the gospel. But nonetheless, this is what we can get from John chapter 10. There are some who are Jesus' sheep because they have a believing heart, and there's some who are not the sheep. There's some who will hear the message, who will hear Jesus' voice through the message of the gospel, and there's some who will not. And we have to be okay with that in the sense that we don't beat ourselves up over it. But at the same time, just continue to share the gospel. And if people come, they come. If they don't, they don't. All we can do is be faithful and sharing what Jesus has said, what he has declared, and allow the cards to fall as they may, as it were. So with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.